Hey everybody, Adam from Atlas Gunworks. We're going to talk about major power factor open gun ammo. We get lots and lots of guys who are having ammo problems, and sometimes they think it's a gun issue, but it's an ammo issue. So I'm going to give you some quick tips on how we do some reloading and how we do testing for ammo. So the first thing is that you need a good case gauge, and the case gauge is going to do a couple things for you. One, we're gonna need to do a process here where we verify that the case gauge is tighter than the barrel. And I'm going to show you how we do that, and then I'm going to use the case gauge to make sure I don't have any high primers. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to load the whole case gauge up, and right away, we'll see if the camera can get in there. But I got one that doesn't want to seat, right? This bullet right here doesn't want to go all the way down. Now there's a couple. This one doesn't either, right? I cherry picked some tight ones, but you can, if you listen, you can hear that click in. Well, the base of this is blown out a little, and it just doesn't quite set in my hundo gauge. That's not the end of the world, but we want to take note of that. So there's another tight one. So what I do is I load up the entire thing. If it needs a little bump to get pushed down, that's fine. I just push them down. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to flip over the rounds into my hundo, right? So all the ones that fall out end up getting in my bag or in my box. They're good to go. Now the one step I skipped here that I would have done is once the hundo's all set, I'm going to scan my thumb over every single one of these, and then I'm going to hold it at this angle and look for high primers. Like this one's got a high primer, I can see it. So that one needs to come out because it's got a high primer. That's no good, right? That's going to go in a ditch box. And then these three are what I'm left with. And so I'm going to put a little pressure on each one, and all of them sort of pop up. So they're in there tight, but they still fit. So if this happened, if I put it in there and the highest it would go, I'm going to hold it with my finger, but if the highest it would go is here and it's stuck, throw that round out. Ditch box, done. Don't put that in practice ammo, don't put it in anything. A lot of guys are like, oh, I'll shoot it in practice. And I'm like, all right, to save 20 cents, we're going to stop a practice run. And most guys don't have 2 days to go spend burn at the range, and one of them they're, jack around out of the gun every so often. So skip that nonsense. If it doesn't fit in the gun, if it doesn't fit in this case like that, it's a bad round, get rid of it. So the other thing you're going to want to do potentially is inspect your case heads too, because the 9mm you're getting all kinds of foreign. If you shoot a 9 major with a case that's got what's called step brass, I don't have an example here, but it's extra thick in here, your chamber pressure is going to be through the roof, so avoid that. So now I'm left with two, right? Or that was my high primer. Actually, I'm left with the three, right? So, okay, 1, 2, 3, they're all tight. I don't like that I have to push them out. I would never use those for match ammo, but I probably will use them for practice ammo. This is the determination if my chamber is looser than my case gauge. So, nice drop in, and I'm going to drop it from a couple different angles, because if there's a bulge in this and it's at the top, the bulge might catch that, it might catch as it comes up, and that's when you stop around. So that passes. So that I wouldn't shoot that round in a match because it didn't pass here, but I would shoot it in a practice. Again, this case gauge is in the barrel. Now I'm not going to do this every time. I'm just trying to put a process down, right? So my process is this. If I load up cases in here, and I case gauge all my practice, so that was real tight the whole way. So I don't particularly like that one. But I'm going to load up, so all these are tight. Like all this needs to be either rolled or chucked, or a couple different things maybe going on, but roll sizing is what would help that. These two are real tight. So I'm going to flip them over. That's match ammo. This is practice ammo because it's still flush, and if it sits up a little bit like that and it doesn't easily push in, then that's throw out ammo. So that's your case gauge process. So many people are not doing that process well enough. And then at the same time, remember to come in here and run your finger over all of them. This one you kind of feel, but you really see them, the high primers here. And then the high primers start coming in when you run off brass. So if you're running mixed head stamp brass, you're going to get questionable. This is that CBC stuff, and that doesn't have a good pocket in it. These pockets are 9mm, everything in 9mm, both the diameter here, your pocket, and your overall length of the case itself is going to vary a fair amount because there's so many manufacturers doing all that. So that's how you case gauge the ammo. Now the other thing that you want to be aware of is that base of your case, that was not a good example. Your case should be held, or your bullet should be held by the base of the case. There's a little bit of a rib right here, not much. But, so the way to check that is, there's two things. I'm going to do a test on my reloading bench, and then I'm going to do one with the gun. So this is 1.168. I'm going to come in here with a soft hammer, just give it a little tap. So 52. So we're losing a little bit, but not bad. I'd probably take that. Now think about it like this. When the gun loads, every time the bullet hits the ramp, so some of that, you're going to get some bullet setback there. So again, that's acceptable. There's some company manufacturing this ammo with shock bottle cases. They don't have the right process going on. So I'll get a baseline. I didn't measure that one, but I tested a couple this morning. They're awful. So we're at 160, let's say, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt, 160, 164. I just whacked that, it'll be like 115. That ammo is gonna pressure spike. It's gonna hit the ramp, and it's gonna, every time. The shock bottle cases can be reloaded. I know guys are doing it. It's difficult. We tried it and gave up. It's nice because they're cheap, but this is steel, so it does not reload the same way. It's difficult. So that case that's a dangerous case when they're that short. So that needs to be thrown out. So getting your process down will help a bunch with problems. What I do, so if you really want to know if you're getting bullet setback, it's this simple. You're going to load 3 rounds in your gun. There's 3 for a reason. The first round, you're going to rack into your gun. So I'm going to put this in my gun. I'm going to rack it. First round's in the chamber. This round's going to fire. You fire once. This round comes out. Gun loads this round. The reason we want it to load this round is most of the time there's a round underneath, so that's the angle it's going to hit the ramp most often. So I don't want you to do it with just 2 in the gun. This loads in the gun. All right, so now what you're going to do is you're going to drop the mag out of the gun, then you're going to rack this round out, and this round, the way I do it is I write the diameter, or the length, I should say. So 1166. I'm going to write that right on the case. Then I'm going to rack it out. I'm going to measure it and see what it does. If it sets back more than 10, I got a problem, right? I'm getting bullet setback every time. So a couple little reloading tips for open. This applies to every kind of reloading, but 9mm major is the biggest problem because we're using the weirdest, the biggest variety of cases with the weird, different stamps, head stamps and stuff with odd things going on. There's so much cheap 9mm ammo that when you buy a range brass, you just don't know what you're getting. And now we've got these cases are part aluminum, part stainless steel, and that's a whole different reloading process. Lots of people are struggling with that. So make sure you're making good ammo and you're feeding the guns good ammo. Every time, the good example is when we're getting the bullet setback. Every time you get bullet setback, chamber pressure goes up. Well, if it goes up 5 or 10,000 psi over time, if the guns are running at the maximum allowed amount allowed by the design of the gun, which they're already over SAAMI spec and at the max, the more you are having bullet setback, the gun might feed great, but at 10,000 rounds, all of a sudden you're breaking parts you shouldn't be breaking. Well, why? Because there's extra pressure in the chamber, and the guns aren't designed to take that extra chamber pressure. Anybody who's building a 9 major gun or a 38 Super Comp major gun is running right at the limit of what the cases will take. So when the cases don't take the extra pressure, it flows back through on the gun, and the guns, prematurely wear. So hopefully that was helpful. Hope to see you guys on the range soon.